All right, so one of the biggest stories that I think has not been getting nearly enough attention in the mainstream media has been the recent global vaccine apartheid that has been being enforced by countries like the United States and Britain and a whole bunch of other wealthy Western developed nations. And I have a good clip here that is from Joe Biden's Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, who is asked one of the very few questions that they are ever asked on this specific issue as to what the United States is going to do about the fact that the entire developing world is struggling to get access to the vaccines, while we've had ongoing good news recently in the United States with how many people are being vaccinated here. It doesn't really matter as much if we're only vaccinating our current population, because if you don't vaccinate the rest of the developed world or allow them to have access to the vaccines by relinquishing patents, then the COVID is just going to continue to spread. We're going to continue to have worse and worse variants, and we're never going to solve the problem. So this is an important question here that he is asked, and he does an absolutely terrible job answering it. Let's go ahead and listen to what Joe Biden's Secretary of State had to say on this.
And the idea that's coming from countries like India and South Africa that say, you know what, intellectual property claims on anything pandemic related, in particular vaccines, should be waived right now. Where does the U.S. stand on that?
So I'll defer to some of my colleagues. We're looking at all of these questions, but there are different ways of doing this. And one of the most important things that we have is this COVAX facility that brings countries around the world together. We are the largest contributor to that. That in and of itself, I think, is going to have a dramatic ability on our ability to make sure that more people around the world have access to vaccines. That's what this is all about. It's making sure that access to vaccines increases and we're covering as many people as possible around the world.
All right, so that was just a straight up lie, okay? His current plan, the thing that he is advocating for in this clip, the ability to give us the ability to give more people vaccines, is not actually working. And the thing that he's talking about here, the COVAX program, well, let's go ahead and look at what the COVAX program has done so far. So COVAX, the global initiative to provide vaccines to countries lacking the clout to negotiate for scarce supplies on their own, has in the past week shipped more than 25,000 doses to low-income countries only twice in any given day. Deliveries have all but halted since Monday, AP noted. During the last 2 weeks, according to data compiled by UNICEF, fewer than 2 million COVAX doses in total were cleared for shipment to 92 countries in the developing world, the same amount injected in Britain alone. According to a recent Bloomberg analysis, vaccination data, the world's least wealthiest continent, Africa, is also the least vaccinated. Of its 54 countries, only 3 have inoculated more than 1% of their populations. More than 20 countries aren't even on the board yet. The ongoing struggles of COVAX and the inadequacy of bilateral vaccine agreements have only served to heighten calls for more sweeping action at the international level to redress inequalities that could prolong and intensify the global pandemic. So this effort that he was talking about, or was asked about, the South African and India effort, to temporarily lift vaccine-related intellectual property rights has gone nowhere due to wealthy trade organization members or World Trade Organization members such as the United States and the United Kingdom, whose opposition has left vaccine production largely under the control of major pharmaceutical corporations. So basically, we are allowing ourselves, and how this entire COVID vaccination process, we are allowing this to be completely dictated by the profit motives of big pharmaceutical companies. That is obviously a problem when the priority should be to vaccinate as many people around the world as quickly and efficiently as possible. That should be the only goal. But of course, we have a president like Joe Biden who is completely owned and controlled by these big pharmaceutical companies, somebody who opposes Medicare for all, somebody who thinks that big pharmaceutical companies, not just here in the United States, but all around the world, should be able to fleece people for profits at the expense of public health. And again, this is not something you can just ignore. This is a problem that has to be solved in order for us to move past COVID. You are never going to be able to rein in COVID by just vaccinating our own populations and ignoring the entirety of the developed world. Because guess what? We have interconnected economies. We have interconnected societies. So if you just let COVID continue to spread in all of these countries, then not only is there the humanitarian aspect of it, where you are simply choosing to allow potentially millions of people to die and get sick for big pharmaceutical profits. Not only is there the immorality and the humanitarian aspect of that, there's also the economic aspect of that, because these economies are never going to fully recover. Ours is never going to fully recover. And as they just pointed out in that article, you're just going to continue to allow new variants to pop up that will inevitably at some point become resistant to our current vaccines and make all of this progress that we have gotten and achieved in the United States completely null. So this is a really important issue that we, again, cannot just simply ignore. It's something that Joe Biden's administration, like 2-3 weeks ago almost now, put out a statement where they were saying, well, Joe Biden is considering whether or not to relinquish these vaccines, the patents for the vaccines. And I think the answer to that question of what he's considering is we've gotten our answer now. He would have done it by now. And this is something that progressives in Congress need to be more vocal about than they have been so far. Because the consequences of this, again, are not just going to be hundreds of thousands of lives, but it's going to be us never moving past COVID and never actually solving the problem. So if you care about actually reining this in and moving to a post-COVID world, this is something you should care about. This is something we have to address. You can't simply ignore the rest of the developed world while we only vaccinate our people. So this is a story that needs to be getting more coverage. The answer that he just gave in that clip was absolute dog shit, okay? Because again, the COVAX program is not working. It straight up is not working. It kind of reminds me of like how Democrats think the solution to people not having health care in this country, instead of it being Medicare for all and providing universal coverage to people free at the point of service, they'll do stuff like, oh, we're going to subsidize Cobra and basically give more handouts to large pharmaceutical. That's exactly what they're doing in this situation too. They're saying, no, instead of relinquishing the patents so that all of these developed countries can produce and distribute their own vaccines, no, instead of doing that, we're actually just going to, give them a little bit of aid on the side to then pay these big pharmaceutical companies that are trying to rip them off. So it's absolutely ridiculous. Not only should we relinquish the patents for the COVID vaccines, but this should apply across the board. This is just further evidence that we need to nationalize big pharma in this country. There's absolutely no reason for the profit motive to be anywhere near public health decisions. And we're seeing the consequences of having the profit motive dictate public health decisions right now. How it unfolded in the United States? Well, it was because we prioritized business short-term economic boosts and saving these wealthy corporations over regular people and just, paying people to stay home for a couple of months. That was something we decided not to do. And now we're seeing this play out on a global scale. We are prioritizing. It's a very simple choice here that Joe Biden has on his plate. You can choose big pharmaceutical profits, or you can choose millions of lives being saved and potentially moving past COVID. So very simple choice that he has in front of him right here. Relinquish the patents. This is unacceptable that these are the types of answers that his administration is giving. And so you got to keep pushing him on this.